Let's have an honest talk about the Squier Classic Vibe Stratocaster. What's up everyone, I'm Jack Fossett. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to this demo and review of the Squier Classic Vibe 60s Stratocaster. I want to say a huge thank you to Zzounds for loaning me this guitar so I could bring you this review. We're going to start off with a jam here that I'm going to give you my honest opinion of this guitar and then hear it in a full run through of all of its pickup settings, both clean and overdriven. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy. Alright everyone, thanks for tuning in. So, this is the Squier Classic Vibe 60s Stratocaster. Here's the thing about these guitars. There's just a lot of hype around them. And you do see people kind of saying this is like the ultimate, I don't know why anyone would buy anything other than this. And then you see other people saying like, no, it's a Squier, it's always going to be a Squier. And that's kind of it. It's just a cheap guitar for someone who can't afford anything more. What's the reality? The reality of it is in the middle, but leaning towards the positive. That would be my experience with these guitars. I think these guitars are a great value. They really are. You get a lot of guitar for the money. Are they perfect? No, absolutely not. They're far from perfect, but they are really good, really enjoyable guitars. They give you a lot of classic features and some pretty good tone comparatively for what you can get from other guitars and things. Now this one does have Alnico pickups. That's a huge bonus. Are they great pickups? No, they're good pickups. I might even say like good with like an inflection on it. You know, just like they're good pickups. Not like they're good. You know, the positive one is, that's how I would say. Could this guitar sound a lot better with a pickup upgrade? Absolutely. But the pickups aren't bad. They don't make you absolutely be like, oh, you got to change these immediately. Now, the interesting thing about these guitars is they are going to cover a vast range of players demographically when it comes to experience, right? This is something that you'll see a lot of beginners grabbing. It's also something that you might see a more veteran player who needs a Stratocaster and doesn't have a huge budget and wants to, you'd see players like that getting these guitars as well. If you are on the beginner end of the spectrum, a little free advice here. This guitar is going to sound basically as good as your amplifier is. And one of the key points to sounding good, getting good tone, getting a good rig, is your amplifier has a more dramatic effect on the quality of your tone than the guitar does. So, what that means is if you have so much money to invest, make sure you get a good amplifier first. And, there's an easy litmus test for this. It's basically like, you think about plugging an amazing guitar into a really crappy little amp, and it's going to sound crappy. You plug a cheaper guitar into an amazing amp, and it's going to sound amazing. It's sort of where the buck stops when it comes to your tone. So that being said, these pickups, again, kind of going back to the point here, the pickups are good with a positive inflection, but this guitar could sound a lot better if you're someone who likes to tinker and get a higher end set of pickups. Then you can make this guitar sound way better than it is. Now, does it come with, you know, premium parts and components? No, you know, certainly not higher end woods and things. It's certainly not going to be, you know, the best tuners you've ever had. I will say one thing with the Squiers is consistency is something to be aware of. This one that Zzounds lent me, really good. I haven't had hardly any tuning issues. You know, I think it sounds really good. The frets feel nice. I've played and owned other Squiers, like many of you might have seen my Classic Vibe Telecaster review. You know, that one had bad fret sprouting. The tuners didn't work quite as well as the ones on this one do. So, you know, you may get one that's like this one that I have right now that works great. You may have one that has a couple of little issues that's a little bit rougher around the edges. You know, obviously if it's something that you're getting new, you can usually exchange it out if you get kind of a bad one. My point is that that's where you tend to see shortcomings on the lower end of the budget spectrum is consistency, and frequently things like hardware and pickups need to be replaced. So all in all, very good value, really good value for what you get. It can be massively upgraded and sound like $1 million on its own. You know, I'd play this for a bunch of shows if I had to, you know, if I didn't have any other option, if I was on a limited budget and I really wanted a Stratocaster sound, I would absolutely take this guitar out and play it live just as it is and not have any qualms about it. Are there much better guitars to buy? Yeah. So they are good for what they are. That's what I say. And I'm not saying that to be nasty about them. I'm not saying that to put them down. I'm saying that to kind of keep it in its appropriate place. Because again, you do see players who just love these, who go a little overboard, in my opinion, of talking about how good they are. That being said, if you're one of those people who owns this guitar and you absolutely love it, I'm not trying to put you down either. I think you should love the guitars that you have. And you know, if you have a guitar that you connect with, who cares what I say? You know, you go enjoy your guitar. I'm just trying to help anyone who's in the market for one of these. Now, that all being said, again, this is on loan to me from Zzounds. So if you're interested in one of these guitars or anything else, it's very important to mention in these kind of honest reviews. If you do any shopping through those links, gets me commission, gets Zzounds a sale, it doesn't cost anything extra to you. That really supports me doing these videos, especially of gear that I otherwise don't have access to. So that's a great way to help me out with the channel and help giving me the ability to do these sorts of videos. Today, I am plugging into my Fender Bassman and I'm using a Keeley Super Phat Mod for the overdriven tones. Now, I know what you might be saying there, and that's a pretty good rig to, you know, that's a relatively higher end rig to show a relatively inexpensive guitar through. Absolutely a fair point. I think, again, what I'm trying to do here is mostly sell the point that, you know, this guitar can sound as good as your rig is. You know, if you're in the market, get your amp first. That's all I'm going to say about that. So what we're going to do now is a full playthrough of all the pickup settings, both clean and overdriven. Please let us know in the comments, what do you think? Where do you fall on the spectrum of opinion on the Squier Classic Vibe series? So thank you again for watching. I'm Jack Fossett. Please stick around for some more tone. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
If I could only tell you what your smile means to me. But in my mind you're far away, I fall down to my knees. My Rebecca, how I wish you knew that where I wanna be is just right here with you. My Rebecca.